Okay, this video is intended to help you make your graphs for your acceleration lab. So while you're listening and watching me, make sure you have your lab in hand as well as your computer. We want to have our lab open to our data tables, our data table for the gradual incline and for the steeper incline. And you should have these data tables completely filled out. The second thing that we want to do is open up a blank Google Sheet. So if we look at number 1 on the analysis questions, it asks us to create a position versus time graph for your two ramp heights. Now we want time to be on the x-axis, so our first column in our data table will be time. And we put our units as seconds. Now we measured 4 times. We did 2, 4, 6, and 8 seconds. And now our y column will be position. But we have the position of two different marble paths here. We have the gradual incline and the steeper incline. So our first one, we will say position with gradual incline. And that would be in centimeters. And here we fill in the value from this column, our average position. So I would put 33.5, 74.5, 131.5, and 203.5. Now I also want to include my position with steeper incline, and that would be in centimeters as well. And there I'm looking at this column. Now you may have only gotten 3 data points for that, up to 6 seconds. 46.3, 111.7, and 205.7. Alright, now what I'm going to do is highlight. So to highlight, I click and hold, and then I drag all the way down so that I get those 3 columns. And then I want to say Insert Chart. Now for this lab, we are looking at a relationship between two variables over time. So we will do a scatter plot. I'm going to move this back over here. And I'm going to say Insert. Now there's a few things that need to be changed here. I need to change my title. I need to add an a Y axis label, so I can go to this little arrow and say Advanced Edit. And let's give it a good title. Maybe, well, let's see, if we do distance over time, that gives us velocity, right? So why don't we say velocity of a marble on a traveling down a gradual and steeper incline. Then I want to add a left vertical axis, so that would be position or distance. My units there were centimeters. And what we're going to do here is add an exponential trend line. Oh, I see. Okay, so, I'm sorry. What I did here is we go down to series. So it says series. You see we have 2 series. Those would be the different colored dots. We have our steeper incline and our more gradual incline. So it will automatically put you on one series. We'll add that exponential trend line. And then we want to go to the other series and add an exponential trend line. All right, update. Here is my first graph. So this would be the analysis graph for number 1. You can print this page. It would be nice if you would include your data table as well, but for now let's move on to number 2 on the analysis question. So number 2 asks us to create a velocity versus time graph. So velocity versus time, again our time will be on the x-axis and our velocity on gradual incline. That I can find right here. So in that last column on our data table. And our velocity is in centimeters per second. Oops, so 2, 4, 6, 8. And let's see, 16.8, 18.6, 21.9. And then we want to add the velocity on steeper incline. Again, centimeters per second. And hopefully you're noticing that each time interval the velocity is changing, meaning that marble is accelerating. So what I'm going to do now, I'll bring this back into full screen. I highlight my 3 columns. I say insert chart. Again, we are comparing 2 variables, so I want to come down and do a scatter plot, insert. Again, we have to add a couple of things, so let's click on the arrow, advanced edit. We can say velocity over time of a marble traveling down a gradual and steep incline. That's what we're looking at, right? The velocity over time. Now I want to add a left vertical axis label, and that would be my velocity, centimeters per second. Okay, and then I want to add a trend line as well. Now, the trend line for this graph, so see we're on the gradual series, we just want to add a linear trend line for both. So now I went back up to series and now I'm working on the steeper one. I want to add a linear and we want to say update. And there's our graph. So we have the graph of the velocity, and then we have the graph of the velocity and how it changes over time. What you want to think about is the similarities and the differences between these graphs. So it looks like there could be a few differences. In both cases, the marble was accelerating, so it just depends on what graph you're looking at and what information you're taking from it. So we can discuss that in class, but hopefully this will get you through the actual making of the graphs.